In today's video, we have a special extra episode for the week. We look into the 1967 case, the brutal assault and murder of 75-year-old Louisa Dunne in her Bristol home. It sent shockwaves through the community, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a family shattered by grief. For nearly 6 decades, the case remained unsolved, frozen in time, until a breakthrough in forensic science unearthed the identity of the killer. This is Curios&Spiritual. This is the haunting story of a cold case resurrected, a predator finally unmasked, and a family's relentless hope fulfilled after 58 years. We take a look at the case and the trial. In the annals of British criminal history, few cases have remained unsolved for as long, or have left an indelible mark on a community, as the 1967 assault and murder of Louisa Dunne in Easton, Bristol. This case spans more than half a century, crossing generations, evolving forensic sciences, and enduring grief and trauma for the victim's surviving family. Louisa Dunne, once a well-known figure in her neighbourhood and a woman with ties to the city's civic elite, was found murdered in her home under brutal circumstances. Despite an extensive investigation at the time, the case went cold until it was revived by modern DNA techniques more than 50 years later. The eventual arrest and conviction of the killer in 2025 closed one of the longest running cold cases in UK history. Louisa Dunne was born Louisa Jarrett on the 16th of May 1892. She married twice during her lifetime, and in her later years she was a widow living alone at 58 Britannia Road in Easton, a densely populated and diverse inner city area of Bristol. She had previously been married to a local politician and once been in line to serve as a mayoress of Bristol. Known for her dignity and independence, Louisa lived a quiet life, and by the 1960s, preferring solitude and maintaining limited social contact. The context of Louisa's life in the 1960s Bristol is important to understanding the shock that her murder caused. She was one of the many elderly residents who remained in the neighbourhood amid increasing urban transformation and social change. Despite her age, Louisa was self-sufficient and had cautious traits that make the brutal intrusion into her home and her murder all the more horrifying. On the night between the 26th and 28th of June 1967, Louisa Dunne was attacked in her home. Her neighbours reported hearing a scream at night and described a muffled cry, lasting only a few seconds. Violet Fortune, a neighbour, recalled the scream as haunting, but too brief to interpret clearly. Upon investigating, they found Louisa dead in the front room. Her body had been placed on a pile of clothing, and her underwear was around her ankles. There were signs of assault and asphyxiation were immediately evident. Dr. Albert Hunt, the pathologist, later confirmed she had been assaulted and murdered through a combination of manual strangulation and suffocation, possibly with her own scarf. The police were called immediately, and what followed was one of the largest manhunts Bristol had ever seen at the time. The Avon and Somerset Constabulary, along with the national support, launched a comprehensive investigation. Over 8,000 people were interviewed and more than 19,000 palm prints were taken, unprecedented for that era. Police scoured the local area for suspects, concentrating on known offenders and repeat burglars. Evidence from the scene was collected, meticulously including the scarf used in the murder, Louisa's blue skirt, DNA swabs, and a palm print lifted from the rear sash window, believed to be the entry point of the perpetrator. Despite their efforts, police were unable to match the palm print to any known criminal. The lack of DNA technology meant investigators were limited in their forensic capabilities. Although they preserved crucial evidence in the secure storage, the case grew cold by the early 1970s. The grief-stricken family in the Eastern community were left without closure. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Ryland Headley was living in Bristol but moved to Ipswich shortly after Louisa Dunne's murder. He would go on to commit a series of violent crimes between 1973 and 1978. Headley was convicted of 10 burglaries. In 1977, he committed 2 horrific assaults involving elderly women aged 79 and 84. These attacks bore chilling similarities to the attack on Louisa Dunne: entry through a window, a nighttime assault, and elderly victims. Although convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment, Headley's sentence was later reduced to 7 years. He reoffended again in the later decades and was arrested for non-violent crimes in the 2010s, leading to his DNA being entered into the national database. In 2012, a pivotal moment that would unknowingly set the stage for justice decades later. In 2023, Avon and Somerset Police launched Operation Beetle, a new initiative aimed at reviving unsolved historic murders. The case of Louisa Dunne was reopened. Forensic scientists at Cellmark, a private laboratory contracted by the police, re-examined evidence, including Louisa's skirt and biological samples. Andrew Parry, a leading forensic scientist, extracted a full DNA profile from cells found on Louisa's skirt. He testified that the match to Ryland Headley's DNA was so strong that the odds of a false match were 1 in 1 billion. In addition, fingerprint experts reanalysed the palm print taken in 1967 and matched it to Headley using modern software and methods. 13 distinctive characteristics confirmed the match. These forensic advancements, unimaginable in 1967, enabled police to build a conclusive case against Headley. On the 19th of November 2024, Ryland Headley, by then 92 years old, was arrested at his home in Ipswich. Body camera footage captured his confusion and disbelief. He asked, "Where are you getting this from?" and claimed to be unwell for questioning. Nevertheless, he was charged with the assault and murder and remanded into custody. Given his age and frailty, he appeared via video link during the preliminary hearings. The trial began on the 16th of June 2025 and lasted several weeks. Prosecutor Anna Vickers, King's Counsel, led the Crown's case, focusing on the forensic evidence, Headley's criminal history, and the circumstantial evidence surrounding the original crime scene. Andrew Parry presented the DNA analysis, explaining how even after decades, the biological material had remained viable for testing. Elizabeth Hobbs, a fingerprint expert, testified that she found 13 points of similarity between the palm print found at the window and Headley's current prints. Due to the passage of time, no live eyewitnesses remained. 16 statements from the original investigation were presented, including those of neighbours who heard the scream and found the body. The court allowed these under hearsay exceptions due to the unavailability of the witnesses. The prosecution drew strong parallels between Louisa Dunne's murder and Headley's later convictions. All victims were elderly women attacked in their homes at night, often through forced entry. These patterns supported the case that Headley was not only capable, but had committed similar crimes. Headley pleaded not guilty. His defence claimed that he had no memory of ever visiting Louisa Dunne's house and suggested that the DNA might have been transferred accidentally. However, the strength of the DNA match and the palm print rendered the defence implausible in the jury's eyes. On the 30th of June 2025, the jury found Ryland Headley guilty of both assault and murder. Judge Derek Sweeting delivered the sentence on the 1st of July 2025, a whole life order, meaning Headley will spend the rest of his life in prison. He became the oldest person in the UK to be convicted of murder and the subject of the longest cold case to result in a conviction. Mary Dayton, Louise's granddaughter, attended the trial and later gave an emotional interview. She said the conviction brought closure, but the decades without justice left lasting scars on her family. She praised the police and the forensic team for their diligence. Detective Inspector Dave Marchant, who led Operation Beetle, described the case as a triumph of perseverance and science. He acknowledged the pain suffered by Louisa's family and reaffirmed the police's commitment to solving historic cases. Other unsolved murders from the same era are now under renewed scrutiny. The case sets a landmark in forensic and legal history. The ability to extract usable DNA from decades-old evidence demonstrates how critical proper evidence preservation is. It also illustrates how new science can reach into the past to uncover the truth. The trial also set precedent in the use of historic hearsay evidence and illustrated the capacity of courts to try aged defendants when justice demands it. Palm print technology, often overlooked compared to fingerprinting, gained new prominence. The assault and murder of Louisa Dunne shocked Bristol in 1967 and remained a haunting cold case for nearly 6 decades. I must admit it's a case I've been following closely, as sitting next to me I have a stack of unsolved murders from the 1960s and 70s. The long overdue justice for Louisa Dunne is a reminder that time does not erase the truth, nor does it diminish the pain left behind by a violent loss. Her story, once buried beneath decades of silence, now stands as both a tribute to the power of perseverance and the condemnation of cruelty she endured. Though nothing can return the years stolen from her family or undo the horror of that June night in 1967, the final conviction offers a quiet but profound sense of closure. A voice, at last, for a woman silenced far too soon.